It was a calm day on Earth, with people going about their routines, not knowing that everything was about to change. The sky was clear, the world was at peace, and nothing hinted at the disaster that was looming. Suddenly, without any warning, the calm was shattered. A deep rumble echoed through the atmosphere, followed by an eerie silence. Then, large ships began to emerge from the sky. These weren't ordinary ships. They were massive, towering vessels, unlike anything Earth had ever seen. The aliens, with their advanced technology, were descending upon the planet. As the ships came into view, the sky was filled with strange metallic shapes that seemed to blot out the sun. The moment they appeared, alarms began to blare across the globe. Cities went into lockdown, governments scrambled for answers, and military officials rushed to their posts. But as the world watched in horror, there was a sense of disbelief. No one knew what was truly happening. Was this a drill? Was it an invasion? People were unsure how to react, because this kind of event had never occurred before. Some believed it was a natural phenomenon. Others thought it was an elaborate hoax. But deep down, most knew this was no ordinary event. The first contact was made when the aliens unleashed their forces. Powerful robots, advanced weapons, and unmanned war machines were deployed to Earth's surface. The aliens didn't seem to care much for communication or diplomacy. They came with one purpose: to conquer, to dominate, and to destroy. Earth's military forces, who had always been considered among the best in the world, were thrown into chaos. They had never faced an enemy like this. Despite their advanced technology and years of experience, they were no match for the overwhelming force the aliens brought with them. The enemy was too strong, too quick, and too ruthless. The alien ships were equipped with cloaking devices, making them nearly invisible until they were upon their targets. Their robots and drones moved with terrifying precision, wiping out everything in their path. Military bases fell one by one, and defense systems were torn apart by alien weaponry. The world's governments, once proud of their military might, were now scrambling to form a defense. The public was in panic, unsure of what was coming next. But what the aliens didn't anticipate was the human spirit. While the military tried and failed to fight back, a different kind of force was beginning to stir. A group of ordinary civilians, not soldiers, not warriors, but everyday people, farmers, teachers, and mechanics, started to rise up. These weren't the strongest or the most powerful humans, but they had something the aliens couldn't predict: determination. They had watched as their cities fell, as their loved ones were taken, and they refused to accept defeat. The resistance wasn't organized at first. It wasn't an army, but a collection of individuals who simply couldn't stand by and watch their world fall. A former soldier named Jason, who had long retired to a quiet life on his farm, was the first to take action. He knew the aliens were far too powerful for Earth's military to handle, but he also knew that every fight could make a difference. Jason began gathering a small group of volunteers, those who wanted to do something but didn't have the weapons or training to fight. They had to be resourceful. They had to think outside the box. At first, it seemed like a hopeless cause. The humans they had chosen to fight weren't the strongest, nor were they particularly well armed. They didn't have the latest technology or advanced weaponry like the military did. But what they did have was an understanding of their own planet, an understanding of how things worked. And in this situation, that knowledge would be their greatest weapon. Jason's team quickly realized that, despite the overwhelming odds, they could still make a stand. Using their knowledge of local terrain, they began to set up traps for the alien scouts. Simple things like camouflaging explosives in the trees or using natural resources to sabotage alien machinery. It wasn't much, but it was something. It was enough to start creating doubt in the minds of the invaders. They didn't know who they were up against. They didn't realize that the humans they had underestimated could still fight back. As the days passed, the resistance began to grow. More people joined the cause, and more tactics were devised. What was once a ragtag group of civilians now started to resemble a true resistance. The aliens, who had seen humans as nothing more than weak, primitive beings, began to question their assumptions. They thought they had already won. But now, they were starting to see something different. The humans weren't giving up. They were fighting back, in ways that the aliens hadn't expected. The resistance wasn't just about fighting. It was about survival. These humans, who had always been considered weak and insignificant, had something that the aliens didn't understand. They had the will to fight, to survive, and to protect what was theirs. And that made all the difference. The aliens had come with overwhelming strength, but they hadn't accounted for one thing: the human spirit. This wasn't just a battle of technology and firepower. It was a battle of wills, and the humans were proving that, no matter how technologically advanced an enemy may be, the will to protect one's home could overcome any obstacle. The invaders had underestimated the humans, and now they were starting to feel the consequences. As the days turned into weeks, the resistance grew bolder, launching more daring raids and causing more damage to the alien forces. The aliens, who had expected an easy victory, were now on the defensive, trying to figure out how to deal with this unexpected human resistance. And the humans, once thought of as weak and helpless, were now the ones pushing back, forcing the invaders to reconsider their entire strategy. The aliens were shocked. They had thought they could destroy humanity with ease, but they hadn't counted on the strength of the human spirit, and they hadn't counted on the fight that was now igniting across the planet. The battle was just beginning, and neither side could have predicted how it would turn out. The aliens had underestimated humanity from the very beginning. When they arrived, they thought Earth was just another primitive world, easy to conquer, easy to dominate. They had never seen humans as a real threat, let alone a force to be reckoned with. After all, in their eyes, humans were weak, fragile creatures with no advanced technologies to match their own. They had come with high expectations of wiping out Earth's defenses within hours. But what they didn't know was that they had made a grave mistake. The humans they had dismissed as powerless were now proving them wrong. One of the most unexpected groups to fight back was a small, unlikely team formed by two very different individuals. The first was Dr. Harold White, a retired scientist who had once been part of a top-secret research project in the military. He was a brilliant mind, now in his late 60s, with a lifetime of knowledge stored in his head. The second was Sergeant Maria Lopez, a seasoned soldier who had seen her fair share of battles in her youth. She was older now, but her instincts and combat skills were sharper than ever. Both of them had seen their world fall apart, their cities torn apart by the alien invaders, and both were determined to do something about it. They couldn't just sit back and let their planet be destroyed. Dr. White had always been an intellectual, someone who believed that knowledge was the key to everything. He had long since retired from active service, but his mind never stopped working. He had spent his later years in isolation, studying everything he could about alien technology and humanity's defenses. Years of research had led him to believe that, despite their advanced systems, the aliens had vulnerabilities, weaknesses in their technology that could be exploited. He wasn't sure how, but he knew he had to find a way to fight back. On the other hand, Sergeant Lopes had always been a fighter. She wasn't a scientist like Dr. White, but her experience in the military gave her an edge in understanding strategy and warfare. She was pragmatic, direct, and unafraid to face the harsh reality of combat. After witnessing the destruction of her home city, she was ready to do whatever it took to stop the alien invasion. The two of them, despite being from different walks of life, made a perfect team. They each brought something essential to the table: Dr. White's scientific knowledge and Lopez's tactical expertise. They met by chance in a small underground resistance base, where they both found refuge after their homes were destroyed. Dr. White was working on a theory he had developed about the alien invaders, and Lopes was looking for anyone with the skills to help the resistance. It didn't take long for them to form an unlikely partnership. The scientist knew how to build and modify technology, and the soldier knew how to fight. Together, they made a powerful combination. Dr. White had been studying the alien machines, particularly their war drones. He had noticed something odd about their power sources. While their energy was highly efficient, it was also concentrated in specific areas of their ships and robots. If he could find a way to disrupt those power sources, it might cause a chain reaction that could take down the machines. It was a long shot, but he believed it could work. However, he needed more than just theory. He needed equipment, tools, and a place to test his ideas. That's where Lopez came in. She had access to military surplus gear, weapons, and a network of contacts who could provide what they needed. Together, they started gathering resources and planning their attack. Dr. White spent hours in the lab, designing a device that could emit a high-frequency pulse capable of disrupting the alien machine's power systems. Meanwhile, Lopes worked on organizing small guerrilla squads of resistance fighters to launch covert strikes against the invaders. It wasn't easy. Most of the soldiers they recruited had no formal training or advanced weapons, but they had the determination to fight for their homes. Under Lopez's leadership, the resistance began to form into a fighting force, albeit a small one. The first few attempts at sabotage were small, subtle. They would disable alien scouts or destroy a few drones before disappearing into the shadows. But then, they stumbled upon something far more significant: an alien weapon system hidden deep in one of the captured military bases. This weapon could potentially turn the tide of the war. But to activate it, they would need to access the alien technology directly, which meant getting into the heart of the enemy's operations. That was something they couldn't do without the right tools and the right plan. Dr. White's device was ready, but the problem was getting close enough to use it. The aliens had sophisticated sensors and automated defense systems, making it almost impossible to get anywhere near their main facilities. But Lopes had an idea. Using her military experience, she devised a plan to infiltrate the enemy's base, using the cover of night to slip past their defenses. They would need to move quickly, strike hard, and get out before the aliens even realized they had been attacked. The mission was risky. They didn't have the luxury of a full-fledged army backing them up, and their resources were limited. But Dr. White and Lopes had something far more valuable: a deep understanding of their enemies and the will to succeed. They knew they couldn't afford to fail. The night of the attack arrived. Dr. White, Lopes, and a small group of resistance fighters snuck into the heart of the alien base. The air was thick with tension, and every step they took felt like it could be their last. They made their way to the power core of the alien facility, the heart of the invaders' operations. As they approached the core, Lopez's heart raced. She knew the risks. They were outnumbered, underprepared, and the aliens could strike at any moment. They reached the power core, and Dr. White quickly set up his device. The pulse generator hummed to life, sending out a burst of energy that radiated through the alien technology. The results were almost immediate. The alien machines began to short-circuit and power down one by one. It was working, but the victory was short-lived. Alarms blared as the remaining alien forces began to close in on their position. They had been discovered. Lopes ordered the team to fall back, but the enemy was too fast. They had underestimated the aliens' ability to adapt. A fierce firefight broke out, and for a moment, it seemed like they might be overwhelmed. But the resistance fighters fought with everything they had, buying time for Dr. White to finish his work. With the final burst of energy from his device, the alien power core went dark, and their machines shut down. The aliens were momentarily stunned. They had not expected humans, especially not weak civilians, to disrupt their operations so effectively. This small team, consisting of a retired scientist and an aging soldier, had managed to deal a significant blow to the invaders. The aliens, who had thought they would easily crush humanity, now found themselves on the defensive. The humans weren't just surviving. They were fighting back, and they had just made their first major victory. The aliens, who had thought they were invincible, were now learning that humanity was capable of more than they had ever imagined. It was a turning point, and though it was only a small victory, it marked the beginning of a much larger fight. Humans were no longer the weak, helpless species the aliens had thought them to be. They were becoming a force to be reckoned with. The resistance was growing stronger with every passing day. What started as a small group of civilians, led by unlikely heroes, was now becoming a full-fledged force. At first, many had wondered how such a ragtag group could ever stand a chance against the technologically superior alien invaders. The aliens themselves had thought that humans would crumble under their advanced weapons and unmatched firepower. But as time passed, those same humans proved their strength, and the aliens began to feel the weight of a fight they hadn't anticipated. In the beginning, humanity's strategy had been simple: survival. But as the resistance grew, so did its tactics. Ordinary people, who once thought they had no role to play in the war, now found themselves on the front lines. They were no longer afraid. They had learned from the mistakes of the past and were now using the very tools they once thought were obsolete to fight back. Old military ships, forgotten weapons, and even ancient war tactics that had once been dismissed as outdated were now their strongest assets. The aliens, who had initially underestimated human ingenuity, were now realizing that humanity had something far more dangerous than advanced technology: the will to fight for survival. This was a war for Earth, for their homes, for their families, and they were willing to do whatever it took to win. It wasn't just about winning battles anymore. It was about holding onto their humanity and proving to the invaders that they would never be crushed. One of the most effective strategies humanity employed was the use of guerrilla tactics. These tactics were simple but powerful: hit hard and disappear before the enemy could retaliate. Guerrilla warfare wasn't about standing in the open and fighting a conventional battle. It was about using the environment, using surprise, and using the element of stealth to outsmart the much larger and more powerful alien forces. The resistance had managed to gather a wide variety of weapons from old military stockpiles, abandoned bases, and even civilian caches. They had learned to modify old technologies, turning them into deadly tools for sabotage. One of the key elements of their success was the use of cloaking devices. These devices, once considered a luxury or an experimental tool, were now used to great effect. With cloaking technology, small groups of resistance fighters could infiltrate enemy lines, attack without warning, and disappear before the aliens had a chance to react. Dr. Harold White, the scientist who had been pivotal in creating the first successful strike against the alien power core, had been working tirelessly with the resistance to refine these cloaking devices. His goal was to create a network of hidden fighters who could strike where the enemy least expected it. The alien forces, who relied heavily on their superior surveillance technology, were now finding themselves vulnerable to attacks from every direction. Using these tactics, the resistance began to make strategic strikes against the alien fleets. They targeted supply lines, communication hubs, and even high-ranking alien officers who were leading the invasion. At first, these strikes were small, but they were highly effective. Each successful mission disrupted the alien forces, slowing down their progress and causing confusion within their ranks. The aliens were growing frustrated. They had never faced an enemy like this before. They were used to overwhelming force and quick victories, but these humans were different. They were unpredictable. They didn't fight according to the rules the aliens had set. Every time they thought they had the upper hand, the humans struck back with a vengeance, exploiting weaknesses the aliens didn't even know they had. As the resistance grew, so did their confidence. They no longer saw themselves as helpless civilians, but as soldiers who could make a real difference. People from all walks of life joined the fight. Doctors, engineers, teachers, and farmers, all united by a common cause. Some had never held a weapon before, but they quickly learned. They fought side by side with seasoned soldiers like Sergeant Maria Lopez, who had been a key leader in organizing the resistance's guerrilla tactics. Lopez was no longer just a soldier. She had become a symbol of hope for the human resistance. Bonner's leadership was invaluable to the resistance. His strategic mind and calm under pressure made him a key figure in the ongoing fight. But what truly set him apart was his unwavering belief in the strength of the human spirit. He knew that the only way to win this war was not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the heart of every person who stood against the invaders. One fateful day, as the resistance launched a daring strike against a critical alien command center, Bonner and his team were tasked with a mission that carried immense risk. The alien forces had built a stronghold deep within Earth's atmosphere, heavily fortified and protected by advanced defense systems. It was a place where the resistance had never dared to strike before. But Bonner knew that if they could take down the command center, it would cripple the alien forces and give humanity a fighting chance. The mission was a suicide mission. The chances of survival were slim, and everyone knew it. Yet, Bonner did not hesitate. He led his team with determination, pushing them forward with the belief that even in the face of certain death, they had a duty to their people. The mission was to be a final, desperate attempt to strike at the heart of the enemy, to take down the command center, and to show the aliens that humanity would never bow down to their invaders. As the team approached the target, they were met with fierce resistance. Alien drones and automated defense systems attacked from every direction, but Bonner's team fought back with everything they had. Their weapons were primitive compared to the alien tech, but they fought with the strength of their convictions. They fought for their families, for their children, and for the world they loved. The battle raged on as Bonner and his team fought their way through the defenses. They were making progress, but at a cost. One by one, his team members fell. The toll of war weighed heavily on them all, but they continued to press forward. Bonner, ever the leader, did not show fear. His eyes remained focused on the mission ahead, his heart filled with the resolve that they would succeed, no matter the cost. As they neared the command center, Bonner realized that there was no way to disable the alien defense systems without taking a more drastic step. The command center was protected by an energy shield that could only be disabled from within. Bonner knew what he had to do. It was the only way to ensure the success of the mission, the only way to give his team a chance to complete their task. Without hesitation, Bonner volunteered for the most dangerous part of the mission. He would enter the heart of the enemy's defenses, disable the energy shield, and give his team the opportunity to destroy the command center. He knew that this would be his final act, but he did it with a sense of purpose. His sacrifice would ensure that the resistance had a chance to win. It would show the aliens that humanity's spirit could not be crushed, no matter how powerful their technology was. As Bonner entered the enemy stronghold, the team held their breath. The tension was palpable as they fought to protect him from the alien forces closing in around them. Time seemed to stand still as Bonner worked to disable the shield. The resistance fighters knew that their success depended on him, and they fought with all their might to keep the aliens at bay. But in the end, it was Bonner's sacrifice that made all the difference. With the shield down, the team was able to destroy the command center, crippling the alien forces. Bonner's death was not in vain. His bravery, his selflessness, and his belief in the human spirit had inspired his team to fight harder than they ever thought possible. They had completed the mission, and the aliens had suffered a devastating blow. Bonner's death became a rallying cry for the resistance. His sacrifice was not forgotten. It was engraved in the hearts of every resistance fighter, and it became the symbol of humanity's unbreakable will to survive. Bonner had given his life for Earth, for his people, and for the future. And in that moment, the resistance knew that they could never give up, no matter how hard the fight became. In the days that followed, Bonner's legacy lived on in every corner of the resistance. His comrades fought harder than ever, spurred on by the memory of the man who had given everything for them. His name became a symbol of hope, a reminder that no matter how dark the world seemed, there was always light in the human spirit. One of the most daring missions the resistance carried out involved using an old Earth battleship, the U.S. Ardent. It had been decommissioned long before the invasion, but the Resistance managed to get it back into working condition. With a small crew of volunteers, they set out to infiltrate the heart of the alien fleet. The mission was dangerous, with a high likelihood of failure, but it was also a perfect example of the guerrilla tactics the humans had become so good at. Under the cover of darkness, the Ardent used its cloaking device to sneak past the alien defenses and get close to the heart of the alien armada. The crew had been trained in the art of stealth, using every trick they could think of to avoid detection. They didn't have the advanced weapons the aliens had, but they had something more valuable: their wits. The Ardent crept closer and closer to the heart of the alien fleet, undetected by even the most advanced alien sensors. When they reached their target, they unleashed a barrage of missiles that crippled the alien flagship, causing chaos within the fleet. For the aliens, this was a nightmare. Their most powerful ship, the one that controlled the entire invasion, was now out of commission. The Ardent was able to escape just as the aliens scrambled to defend themselves. The attack didn't destroy the fleet, but it had sent a clear message. The humans were not to be underestimated. But the victory was short-lived. The aliens, realizing they were losing their grip on the invasion, decided to escalate their efforts. They brought out their superior technology, their most powerful weapons, and the full might of their armies. This was the aliens' response to the growing human resistance. They had been pushed to the edge, and now they were going to push back with everything they had. The balance of power was shifting. The aliens, who had once been certain of their victory, were now starting to feel the pressure. They had thought humanity would crumble under the weight of their advanced technology, but now they realized that the humans were far more resilient than they had ever imagined. The human resistance had learned to fight with what they had, using unconventional methods and turning the aliens' own technology against them. Their guerrilla tactics had thrown the invaders off balance, and now the humans were beginning to take the fight to the enemy's doorstep. But the battle was far from over. The aliens had not yet given up, and they would soon unleash their most devastating counterattack. Humanity's fight for survival was far from won, but for the first time, there was hope. The Resistance had proven that even against the most advanced and powerful forces in the galaxy, the will to survive and the strength of humanity could not be easily crushed. The aliens had underestimated them once, but now they were about to face a force they had never imagined. The full might of a united, defiant Earth. The war between the Resistance and the alien invaders had reached a critical point. The aliens, who had once thought that humanity was no match for their advanced technology, were now facing a force that refused to give up. The tide of the battle had shifted, but it wasn't enough yet. The human spirit was unleashed in full force, but the price of victory was steep. As the aliens escalated their attacks, the humans stood their ground, determined to protect their world, even if it meant sacrificing everything. The alien forces had begun an all-out assault on Earth's major cities. From space, they unleashed devastating orbital bombardments that rained down destruction on the planet. Buildings were reduced to rubble, streets were torn apart, and the sky itself seemed to burn. The once thriving cities of Earth were now battlegrounds, their fate hanging by a thread. Yet, despite the chaos and destruction, the Resistance refused to back down. They knew that their homes, their families, and their way of life were worth fighting for. Every day, the Resistance fought against overwhelming odds. The aliens had far superior technology, weapons capable of wiping out entire cities in an instant, and a seemingly endless army of robotic soldiers. Yet the human spirit proved to be their most powerful weapon. They fought not just for survival, but for their right to exist. Each battle, no matter how small, was a defiance of the alien forces. They were fighting for the future, for their children, and for a world that was worth saving. Amidst the chaos, one of the Resistance's most important leaders, a soldier named Bonner, emerged as a symbol of that spirit. Bonner was a man of quiet strength, never seeking glory or recognition. He had seen the horrors of war, had lost friends and comrades, and yet he had never wavered in his commitment to the cause. He knew that the stakes were higher than any personal victory. This was about saving humanity itself. The battle for Earth was far from over, but Bonner's sacrifice had changed the course of the war. The resistance was stronger than ever, united by a shared purpose and a deep sense of duty. They had seen the darkness of war, but they had also seen the power of the human spirit. And with that power, they knew they could overcome any obstacle, no matter how insurmountable it seemed. The aliens had underestimated humanity, and now they would pay the price. The human spirit had been unleashed, and it was unstoppable. Bonner had shown them that in the face of death, humanity would rise. And as the war raged on, that spirit would carry them to victory. The time had come for humanity's final stand. The once quiet, peaceful world that had been caught off guard by the alien invasion was now a battlefield, scared and torn by the ravages of war. The resistance had fought bravely, and the human spirit had proved unbreakable. But the aliens were not easily defeated. They had underestimated humanity from the start, thinking that their superior technology would crush the human race. But now, the tides had turned, and humanity was ready to launch its ultimate offensive. The resistance forces, now equipped with advanced AI and cloaking technology, had united with Earth's military to form a powerful, unstoppable fighting force. They had learned from their enemies, adapted, and grown stronger. The humans, who once fought with outdated weapons and old tactics, now had access to technology that rivaled the alien invaders. It was a weaponized version of humanity's greatest strength: adaptability. They had taken the alien technology and made it their own, creating a force that the aliens could never have predicted. The final battle would take place in the heart of space, as humanity's last line of defense was launched into the skies. The human forces had developed massive warships equipped with cloaking devices, allowing them to move undetected through the alien defenses. These ships, built from Earth's most advanced technology, were designed to pierce the heart of the alien motherships, which had been dominating the skies and unleashing devastation on the planet below. The alien motherships, massive and intimidating, had been thought to be invincible, but the humans had other plans. As the human forces approached the alien motherships, the tension was unbearable. The fate of the world rested on this final assault. The human warships, cloaked and invisible to the alien sensors, moved into position. It was a daring strike, a calculated risk, but the humans had no choice. If they didn't act now, the aliens would crush everything they had fought for. The air was thick with anticipation as the human fleet prepared to unleash a devastating blow. The first wave of attacks came swiftly. The human ships uncloaked, their weapons firing with pinpoint accuracy. The alien motherships, caught off guard, tried to retaliate, but it was too late. The humans had struck first, their precision and advanced technology giving them the upper hand. The alien ships, despite their massive size and advanced weaponry, were no match for the speed and coordination of the human forces. The battle was fierce, and both sides fought with everything they had. The aliens sent their commanders to the front lines, hoping to turn the tide of the battle. These commanders, the most elite warriors in the alien hierarchy, were skilled in combat and strategy. They had been sent to Earth with one mission: to crush humanity and bring an end to the resistance. But even the commanders could not anticipate the strength of the human forces. The human fleet, armed with cloaking technology and guided by the wisdom of their leaders, struck with precision. The aliens, though technologically superior in many ways, were no match for the humans' resourcefulness and determination. With every strike, the alien motherships began to falter. The once invincible vessels were now vulnerable, their defenses weakened by the relentless assault of the human forces. As the battle raged on, the humans pushed forward, refusing to give up. Each attack was more powerful than the last, each strike bringing them closer to victory. The alien motherships, once looming giants in the sky, were now crumbling under the pressure of humanity's attack. The aliens had no idea what had hit them. They had expected their advanced technology to be enough to crush the human resistance, but they had underestimated the power of human will. The final confrontation came when the alien commanders, realizing that their forces were losing ground, attempted to regroup and launch a counterattack. They ordered their remaining ships to converge on the human fleet, hoping to overwhelm them with sheer numbers. But the humans, anticipating this move, were ready. They had already infiltrated the alien defenses and set traps that would turn the tide in their favor. The aliens, who had once believed they were invincible, were now retreating in terror. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. The human forces had broken their defenses, and the alien invaders were fleeing, realizing too late that humanity was not a race to be taken lightly. The final battle had been won, but the cost was immense. The human fleet, though victorious, had suffered heavy losses. Many of the ships had been destroyed, and many brave soldiers had given their lives to secure this victory. The battle had been long and grueling, but in the end, humanity had triumphed. The aliens had been defeated, and Earth was finally free. In the aftermath of the battle, the human forces stood victorious, but there was no celebration. The war had taken its toll on them all, and the cost of victory was heavy. Bonner, the hero who had given his life to lead the resistance, was remembered as a symbol of humanity's unbreakable spirit. His sacrifice had paved the way for this victory, and his name would be forever etched in the hearts of those who fought beside him. As the last remnants of the alien fleet retreated into the darkness of space, humanity looked toward the future. The war was over, but the scars of battle would remain. Earth had been saved, but at a great price. Yet the victory was a testament to the strength of the human spirit, a reminder that no matter how impossible the odds, humanity would always fight for its survival. The aliens had come to Earth thinking they could conquer it easily, but they had underestimated the power of humanity. They had failed to see the strength that lay within the hearts of the human race. And now, as the human forces began to rebuild, they knew that they had proven something far greater than their ability to fight. They had proven that, no matter how dark the future seemed, humanity would always find a way to rise above. The final echoes of the battle had barely settled when the alien emperor, in his towering command center, began to realize the full weight of what had just transpired. As he looked at the shattered remains of his fleet, the destruction of his warships, and the retreating remnants of his forces, he understood something that no alien had anticipated. Humanity had won. But what did that really mean for the alien empire, the one that had once ruled the galaxy with an iron fist? The Emperor's mind raced as he tried to make sense of this shocking turn of events. For the Emperor, the human victory wasn't just a defeat, it was an affront. To him, it was as if humanity had faced its doom, and still, somehow, emerged victorious. He had expected the humans to crumble beneath the might of his fleet, to bow to their superior technology. But now, as the last alien ships limped away into the void, the Emperor could not help but wonder what had gone wrong. He had underestimated humanity's spirit, and that mistake, as it turned out, would cost him everything. On Earth, the news of victory had spread like wildfire. The cities that had once been ravaged by war began to come alive again, as people realized they had won the battle for their survival. The skies, once darkened by alien ships, were now clear. The ground, once shaking with the impact of weapons, was now peaceful. People, having fought for so long, stood together, united in their triumph. But even as they celebrated, there was a sense of quiet reflection that hung over the planet. The cost of victory had been high, and the scars of war were evident everywhere. Yet, despite the destruction, there was hope. Humanity had faced annihilation and emerged stronger. In the aftermath of the war, the alien emperor, now faced with the overwhelming truth, tried to reason with the humans. He reached out to Earth's leaders, hoping to salvage some kind of peace. The emperor, with his vast knowledge and intelligence, believed that the humans' victory was a sign of something much larger. To him, it was not just a military defeat, but a symbol of something more profound. change in the balance of the universe. A species that had once been on the brink of extinction had just taken down the most powerful empire in the galaxy. In his mind, this was no ordinary victory. This was an omen. But humanity, having faced the very real threat of extinction, was not in the mood for negotiation. Earth's leaders, the survivors of the brutal war, had seen firsthand what the aliens were capable of. They had witnessed the alien forces decimate entire cities, and they had watched as their loved ones were torn away. No, this was not the time for compromise. This was the time for a new beginning. Humanity had proven itself, not just as survivors, but as victors. And in the aftermath of this victory, the people of Earth were determined to forge their own path, free from the shadow of any conqueror. The alien emperor, though prideful and ruthless, could not deny the truth. His empire had been brought to its knees by a species that he had once considered insignificant. Humanity's unity, its spirit, and its unwavering determination had changed the course of history. The emperor, sitting in his throne room, stared into the cold void of space. His thoughts were conflicted. He had never faced a foe like this before, and in a way, he could not help but feel a strange respect for the humans. They had fought with everything they had, and they had won. But what did this mean for the future? What did it mean for his empire? Back on Earth, the people were beginning to rebuild. The war had torn their cities apart, but now they were putting the pieces back together. The cities, once burning with fire and death, were now filled with life and hope. The people who had fought, bled, and lost so much were now standing together, ready to begin a new chapter. They had faced the darkness and come out on the other side, stronger than ever. Humanity had always been defined by its ability to adapt, to overcome, and to survive. But now, after this victory, humanity's identity had evolved. They were no longer just survivors. They were the masters of their own fate. As the sun rose on Earth, a new dawn broke over the planet. The stars that had once seemed so far away were now within reach. The aliens had come to Earth with the intention of dominating it, of erasing humanity from existence. But now, Earth stood tall, free from the chains of oppression. The message was clear. No one could conquer humanity. No one could break their spirit. And so, humanity began to move forward. They were no longer the fragile species that had once been vulnerable to the whims of more powerful alien forces. Now, they were a united world, stronger than ever before, ready to take their place among the stars. The journey ahead was uncertain, but the future was theirs to shape. As humanity looked to the skies, they knew that they had not just defeated an empire. They had proven that the power of unity, courage, and hope could overcome even the greatest of obstacles. The battle had been won, but the war for their future had just begun. And in this new era, humanity would lead the way. The alien invaders had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest, but they had underestimated the strength of the human spirit. And now, as Earth's leaders set their sights on rebuilding, the message to the galaxy was clear. Humanity would no longer bow to anyone. They had earned their place among the stars, and no one, alien or otherwise, could take that away. The aliens, defeated and humiliated, would never forget this day. They had come to Earth thinking it was an easy conquest, but instead they had been shown the true strength of humanity. And as the human race prepared for the next chapter of their journey, they knew that they would face whatever came next with the same courage, determination, and unity that had carried them through the darkest days of their existence. This was their new dawn. This was the beginning of a new era, not just for humanity, but for the entire universe. The aliens had failed, and humanity had triumphed. The story of their victory would echo through the stars for generations to come, a reminder that no matter how dark the night, the dawn would always rise.